Happy Monday, everyone. If you've ever wanted to be the mob boss of a group of tough yet dignified thieves, except also they're animals, then you've come to the right place today. We're taking a sneaky peek at Goodcritters from Arcane Wonders. This robbery negotiation game pits one of your group as the boss against everyone else, the lowly criminals, in a hurried rush to divide your spoils before the authorities arrive and arrest everyone. Will you be magnanimous and treat your friends well, or will you go full-on Pesci? Let's find out. Before we open this one up and look inside, I want to prepare you for what you're about to see. We make fun of Fantasy Flight's inserts a lot around here, and we do so pretty safely. They're universally recognized as awful. As I remove the top of Goodcritters and you look inside, I want you to know that this is what your box is going to look like if you're not a gamer and you don't have bags lying around to make this more organized. The rulebook is generally good, and you'll be happy with it. Past that, everything just hangs out inside the box. The one provided baggie holds the plastic stands, but everything else doesn't fit. The cards don't fit in the bag, and everything else is just tossed around inside here. Straight from the factory, this game comes with these thin cardboard dividers which separated the cellophane-wrapped card decks. The punchboard sheets were on top of that, and there's just not a good space left behind to organize this without a couple of nice baggies. Really, that's all that's needed to solve this issue. Let's get it to the table and I'll talk you through the heist. Each player chooses a gangster critter which best represents their personal Patronus, and they get the 5 cards with that animal on them as well as the matching threat marker. On top of these, each player also gets 1 loot card of each value for a starting total of 14 Gs. Now it's time to create the loot pile. Now, depending on the number of players, you'll divide the game's loot cards into some number of roughly equal piles. The game is oddly specific about not needing to be particularly careful about making the piles equal. In our 4-player game set up here, that number of piles is 6. You'll take the fuzz card and place it into one of the piles on the end, in our case the 4th one, and stack them all up into a deck. Whoever owns the game becomes the first boss, and you're ready to play. Each round has 4 steps, the first of which is to reveal the loot. The boss will take cards off the top of the deck equal to the number of players plus 2 and put them face up in the center of the table so everyone can see them. From there, the boss will divide up the loot. The rules for dividing is that there are no rules. The boss can give as much or as little loot to anyone they want. When they're happy with the division, everyone gets to choose the action they're going to play this round. The 5 cards in your hand each give you a different way to respond to the loot on the table. You can strictly vote yes or no to the distribution. Your skim card lets you take the top card off the loot deck, however only the first person gets to play the card gets the skim. Every successive player who played it gets exactly 0. Option 4 is rob, giving the acting player a random card from the stash of the player they're actively threatening with their token. Finally, you can play guard, which will protect you from these nasty threat tokens. If you manage to guard against a rob, you instead steal a card from the player robbing you because reasons? Play starts with the boss and then moves clockwise around the table, revealing cards and carrying out the associated actions. Once everyone's revealed their cards, you determine if the boss stays in power. If the yes cards outnumber the no votes, then the vote passes and it's one more day of wine and roses. Everyone gets the loot cards originally assigned to them by the boss, and you start again just as before. If the vote is tied, everyone gets their loot, but the boss doesn't have the mandate of the masses. The next player in order becomes the new boss. If the no votes win the day, not only do we meet a new boss, not the same as the old boss, but no one gets any assigned loot. To make things more interesting, next round, 2 new loot cards are added to the pool, and we start again. While that all sounds very simple, and it is, the actual game time is spent mostly in the negotiations and threatening. As I kept telling one of my playgroup when they got frustrated that the negotiation was taking too long and he, quote, just wanted to play the game, the negotiation is the game. That's what you're getting into here. The cards and the cash are just ancillary. So if that's your speed, you're going to be very happy with this box. It does a good bit towards getting out of the way of that purer experience. I'll talk a little bit about the art here before I move on to my thoughts about the game proper. One of the things that initially drew me to Goodcritters, and in fact Arcane Wonders as a developer, were the art assets. While this art won't blow anyone away, there's something to be said for creating an overall world feel and bringing the player into that. I'm going to get a lot of heat for saying this, but one of my favorite movies that exemplifies an overall world feel through visuals is The Shadow. Yes, it's campy and ridiculous, but there's a rich Art Deco feel to the style, and perhaps a darker example of that same style is BioShock. Goodcritters evokes the same kind of 1930s gangster Depression-era world that I love. There's a unifying feel evoked on the table, and I'm here for it. Now, to the game itself. A pretty good microcosm of how this game works overall happened in my second playthrough of it, so allow me to indulge you with a story. One of my more min-maxing gamer friends became the boss early on in the game and proclaimed out loud that he was starting a capital A alliance. In a 7-player game, he knew that he only had to get 4 yes votes every time to guarantee his staying in power, and reasoned that he likely needed less than that if the players outside the alliance were going to try and rob or skim on their turns. So he chose 3 other players besides himself, declared that he would never rob or skim while he was in charge, and doled out the loot only to those players in the inner circle. The table sort of stopped. We knew what was going on, but we also knew that it would take a huge concerted effort to stop it from happening. Not only did those of us in the alliance need to betray him, but we also sort of had to betray our own best interests. After all, we were in the circle. We were going to get a nearly similar amount of loot every round. All we had to do was trust Al Capone. In order to break the machine, the 3 players on the outside had to vote no every time and hope that at least one of us got greedy. Since I'm already outing myself as a lover of bad movies, I'll quote the American cinematic classic that is Confidence. You should be running out the door, desperate to forget that this ever happened and ready to repent your greedy ways. Then, there it is again, that itch. There's a guy standing in front of you with a smoking gun, another guy on the floor bleeding all over the place, and all you can do is think about the money. The itch in that quote, that's greed. Eventually, the alliance collapsed because one of the group, and I won't say who it was, but it was Bradley, skimmed when he thought he could get ahead, and there were 3 yes votes and 3 no votes. Paradise was lost. The dream faded, and we all were sadder, but wiser. Goodcritters is built around moments like this. I mentioned earlier that the game does a great job getting out of the way of itself, lending to social experiments in loyalty and self-interest. I almost like the game more because of that. It's a prisoner's dilemma simulator baked in the flaky crust of a grifter's game, and who doesn't love a good dose of psychology with their board games? While Goodcritters aims high and hits on a few key points, ultimately it's too long and too samey for my personal tastes. There's a solid game here for the right group though, you just have to remember where the actual game is. Let's go through our checklist. In the box, rulebook clear and non-gender pronouns. Goodcritters rulebook does a great job of explaining how the game is going to work and does so in a clear, ordered fashion. It's succinct and has lots of examples throughout. The book uses the non-gendered they to denote the player in all cases, save the examples when they are specific players to identify. Iconography clear. All of the art is very clear, so there shouldn't be any confusion about what cards do what. Additionally, each loot card has a large value on the face, keeping everything on the up and up. Packaging well done. No. Not, like, at all. On the table, good representation. While we're clearly talking about anthropomorphized creatures here, of the 8 playable characters in the box, 3 are clearly feminine, and 2 of those 3 are sexualized in a weird way. Component quality, nothing special here. The cards are of decent stock, and the threat markers are punchboard and plastic stands. Replay value, pretty high. Since most of the game lies in the negotiation, the threats, and the manipulating, each game is going to be very different, or very much the same, depending on your group. Fun to lose. Not in our games. When we played this in my group, the players who fell behind early stayed there, even with a concerted effort on their part to form a secondary alliance with each other. The problem here is that there's no hidden information that's relevant to the score, and what is hidden and helpful to players who are behind when revealed just makes people not trust you, and thus harder to gain ground. While I'm personally a fan of negotiation games, which is what drew me to Goodcritters in the first place, I was disappointed with how much the players have to bring to the game. While this may actually be a draw for some gamers, I ultimately wanted a heavier hand in evening out the overall feel on the table. If you like arguing over piles of cash and don't mind layers on layers of second-guessing yourself, then Goodcritters is worth a look for your table. I'm Nicholas, reminding you to help protect the game population. Always sleeve your cards. Hey everyone, if you enjoyed that video, please hit that sub button and check out all of our other offerings at goodluckhighfive.com. And please consider becoming a patron of the channel at patreon.com/GLHFmagic.
and help us keep making reviews, videos, and podcasts for as little as $5 a month. We're also always looking for new games to review, so if you make games or you know a company who does and wants to have their game reviewed on Good Luck High Five, please reach out to us at glhf@goodluckhighfive.com and we'd be happy to take a look. You can follow me, Captain N the Game Master, on Twitter and Instagram at CaptainNGM, and follow the channel at GLHF Magic. Remember, please shop at your local game store whenever possible. Until next time, I'm Nicholas, and good luck, high five.